everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for our November QualiWare user group meeting. My name is Cecile Hurley, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. The agenda for today is as follows. Kevin's going to go through CloseReach news. We have a customer update from PSPC. We have a special guest talking about a new book that she's written. And then we have some techie stuff at the end with Kevin for cloud Symbology. To get us started, I'm going to pass things over to Kevin, and Kevin can get us going with CloseReach news.
Great, thanks. So we've got some training coming up. We've got QualiWare basic courses, a course running the beginning of December. And Mike Haley will be running the business process analysis and costing workshop mid-December. That's 4 half days, and it's the methodology and the business side of process analysis and costing. And then the latter part of the course is actually using the CBP tool, which is powered by QualiWare, to actually build some costing models. So that's great. And next, Roger Burleton, for those that know him, an expert, Canadian and global expert in business architecture, was here in September. And he's actually coming back remotely, working with RCMP on a special workshop for them. But we're looking to set up a workshop, a broader workshop for anyone who hasn't taken his course and wants to know more about it for him early in the new year. And these are really custom workshops for organizations that are striving for excellence. They're a custom workshop with Roger. He'll be working at preparing things for the specific workshop. And it's more than just training. It's a transformative experience tailored to your organization's unique challenges and goals. And really, the North Star, concept is, what is the goal, primary goal for your organization or the group that you're part of, and what are the steps that you need to follow to get there? And, a lot of times people set these goals, but they really lack the tools for staying on track and achieving them. So that's the idea behind these customized workshops. And you'll see more of that on our website shortly. But as I say, RCMP, their executive and senior management group are undergoing one of those, I think later this week, if not next week. We had December 6th, we have Mike Hart, who's involved with ASQ, and he's a friend of CloseReach. We've worked with Mike quite a bit. He's has a special presentation at the ASQ, and it's about design of experiments. So, how do you set set up a series of experiments to determine, how successful you are and what kind of quality space you're in. Anyhow, there's a link there, and you can follow that for more details. I think the cost is $30, and it includes dinner. So we recently ran an EDGI seminar, which is about organizational design, and that's now up on our YouTube channel. So I think it was a very well received webinar. There was a lot of information in there. EDGI is a special notation for organizational design, a much simplified notation, over perhaps some of the standard templates in QualiWare, but allows you to model out your organization. So again, that entire webinar is up on our YouTube channel. Next page, Cecile.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Go ahead.
10.9 coming soon, according to Phil, in the next day or so. But Cecile has dibs on December 1st, so if anybody wants to take odds on that with her,
That would be great.
Gartner's EA quadrant has been released, and QualiWare is back in the leaders quadrant. Strengths focus on ecosystem collaboration. QualiWare is quick to provide collaboration as support for key stakeholders and users across the organization. So, that's listed as one of the strengths there. Industry verticals and innovative features. QualiWare has some very innovative ways of 2 and 3D visualization, text to model features, creating models from text descriptions. They mention Edgy in there, and they also mention some work coming along with early investment on AI functionality to be included in the tool. So if you've got Gartner, you can see that that analysis there, and if you don't, you can reach out to sales or customer success, and we'll share that information with you. We have an open house on December 18th at noon. So if you want to drop by the office, we've got a little Christmas cheer and some treats and things like that. And it's nice to put a face to a name again and see people in person. So if you can attend the open house, as I say, it's noon on December 18th, running for a few hours. Our office will be closed the 27th to 29th, but we will be monitoring email for support issues. So Cecile, next.
That's it.
Oh,
you're done.
Well, actually, I got something else I want to talk about.
All right.
I'm actually going to, so we have a couple of things. One is based on Roger's last course, we've completed a mapping of course content and concepts to QualiWare and Archimate templates. So for example, value chains and external ecosystems. Well, we've got a table now that will say, and that was page 31 in his course notes. Here are the various templates, both in the standard QualiWare meta models and also in Archimate, that you could describe those concepts. And we've built out a series of notes that can help you to apply this stuff. So we'll make that available either as a download from the website, or you can reach out to the support portal and ask for a copy of that template. We'll be sending that out to everybody who was on the September course, so you'll have that automatically, and we'll be handing it out every time for the future courses that we run. So thanks very much.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, okay. Going once, going twice. Just kidding. The link to the ASQ workshop, I'll pop into the chat as soon as I'm finished here. And there will be an email going out at the end of the day today or tomorrow morning. There will be an email going out this afternoon or tomorrow morning with a summary of all the things that we just talked about on the training and events. So the information about the BPAC workshop and the QualiWare basic training and our open house and all that stuff will be on that email, and you'll see that in the next little while. And now
actually,
I'm going to
Cecile, I do have one other thing.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in. Well, we're talking about, we're getting a book preview today from Louise, which is great. I wanted to let people know that there's another book coming out, and it involves somebody else here in Canada as well as Jacob Lund. And we'll preview that in our January meeting, but it's called Embrace Industry 4.0. And it's Gail Peterson is the author, and she has contributing authors, and Jacob Lund was one of those. So Jacob wrote one of the chapters on architecture. And the book actually is all about architecture. So it hasn't been released yet. It's coming out in December, and we'll feature that in our January meeting. So thanks very much.
Great. Okay, thanks, Kevin. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Menno and Brenda to get us started with their presentation. Thanks very much.
I'm going to share the slides and that way Menno can just speak to them, and then so let me just share my slides. I'll start. Okay, thanks, Brenda. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Menno Savage. I'm the manager of business solution data analytics. I've been with RPS, PSPC for since 2001. So I know RPS ins and outs very well. I joined the team back in October last year. And when I first joined the team, my role was supposed to be reporting, automating reports for RP. This project was imposed to me back in November, but I can tell you guys that exactly a year ago or a year after, I'm very proud of having joined that team and that project. I am very proud of what we've accomplished in a year and what's on the table for the next few years also. So my role is really to go to clients and bring them to us to map the business process. Our role is not to write the business process, but to map the processes. So the client needs to be ready with their business processes before we can start mapping their process. What we wanted to do is having a corporate or a centralized located system to have all our business processes. We want to what we want to do is digitalize the documentation, knowledge transfer, missing integration for end-to-end operational view of our business. Detailed steps of processes are clearer and used to support the work. Call the action for digitalization documentation and the content of hybrid work. So like I said before, our role is not to develop the business process, but to map their process. We're not a COE, Center of Expertise. We do not give functional direction. We do not provide advisory services or do not take ownership of business processes. The goal, again, is to create an integrated end-to-end approach to provide an operational view of our business, facilitating training, knowledge transfer, retention, and onboarding. All right, I've lost my mouse here. Sorry. So this is all the accomplishment that we have made, all the processes that we have mapped so far. We have a total of 176 maps, and 54 of those have been approved and governed. And so just, Menno, if I can jump in.
Yeah, for sure,
so
Brenda.
One of the things to note, I think that, you know, a lot of these acronyms don't mean anything to a lot of you folks outside of PSPC, but as you know, PSPC is really the, you know, Real Property Services is the landlord and real estate pillar of PSPC. And so there's a lot of processes around, you know, budget and leasing and special initiative funding and, you know, quasi-stat and renegotiating building leases. And so learning about, you know, lease in, lease out processes. The other thing is also there's a whole cycle of business planning that goes on. The budget allocation process is one that
is very one where the knowledge transfer was really essential because some of the people in that group, 2 of them were retiring. And so this was one of the first areas the team focused on last November and December, because one of the women was retiring right before Christmas. So they had a very short timeline to go and, you know, capture a lot of knowledge that was in her head. And she had, you know, quickly dumped out steps and that she did in the budget allocation process into an Excel spreadsheet. And she had other kinds of documentation, but it was really the team coming together and capturing that. So the other thing is around in-year planning. So not only do they look at the building investment plan and operating plans and revenue plans and things like that, they all roll up into a bigger building management plan. And so these processes are can be quite complex. And so one thing that the team was doing was really breaking down the complexity, if you will, and being able to build maps that were easy to follow, could be used as job aids and things like that. And so, I mean, they conducted workshops. So to Minot's point about the goal is not to develop the process. That's done by the lines of business. They come with their content. The team holds some workshops, you know, they'll pre-review the content and then hold some workshops and then really start putting content into QualiWare. Then they go through a review process where they're presenting it and updating it right in the tool. So it's really quite dynamic in how those workshops run. And, you know, the feedback has been really, really good. So.
The other one also, Brenda, I wanted to add was the while COVID, the GC co-working sites.
Yes.
So they had to close sites. It was an emergency. They had to close the sites, and the people working there supporting those sites had no idea what to do. So now we have all those processes mapped and in production. So if ever something like that would happen again, like people can just go in and they would know exactly what process they need to follow to close a site. They have it's all mapped. It's all there, and it's really, really useful.
Great.
Thanks.
All right, so here's the work coming down the pipe.
Yeah. So we have lots of client coming to us now. I think the word is being spread to RP, and there's a lot of clients coming our way. So we will have a very busy few years coming to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on this point also is an important note that, you know, the team continues to liaise with DSB. So governance was something that was implemented and put into place this year, and we use the governance workflow engine to, you know, send content and get content circulated and reviewed and approved, and also, you know, customizing things on the web and stuff like that. So we do liaise with DSB. They've had some change in staff and personnel over there. So, but we continue to partner with them to support the tool and the implementation of the tool. So here's some your client testimonials.
Yeah, so two of our good clients, they sent us that email. So it's really nice that people appreciate the work that we've done for them. Like you guys can see it for yourself. I don't have to read it, but it was really nice to receive that feedback, positive feedback.
Yeah, so I'll just leave this up here for a sec so you can all read it. But I think the important thing to take away here is that each of these groups are feeling that the mapping exercise has gone very well, but it's also providing a means for them to show and demonstrate to their clients and users, you know, the possible solutions and the steps in the process. And so again, making those job aids and transferring that knowledge a little bit easier, right? So that's really part of the main goal of this project, besides you know, digitizing all the processes. But it's really about knowledge transfer and communication, right? So as good architects, we know communication is the goal. So I'm going to quickly switch and show you some things in QualiWare. So just bear with me as I change my desktop here. We'll just quickly show you an image of what the desktop looks like currently. So one of the things that Manot's boss likes to present, and his boss is he likes the idea of the tiles are set up by line of business. And so when he goes to his directors meeting and the DG meeting, and directors are there and they don't see any content for their tile. And then they're like, well, wait a minute, how do I get my stuff modeled so that I have my content on one of the tiles? So that is driving a lot of interest and opportunity for Manot and the team, but they don't like the fact that their tile is not shown any content.
That's a really great approach. That's fantastic.
Isn't it? So that Denis thought that was amazing. He's like, yeah, they don't really like that they don't see their content. So it does get them focused on getting their ducks in a row and getting their stuff slotted in and scheduled in with the team. So
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do you present stuff when it's still incomplete, when it's still under development, or do you try to get everything done and all through the approvals before you'll show it to anybody?
Oh, no. So the team is working in a very iterative fashion. So they, you know, and I'm Dragos and Elizabeth, I'm not sure if they're on or well, they could speak to this, but basically they schedule the workshop. So they get the content, they do an initial analysis, do an initial mapping, then they hold a workshop and they start to walk through it, right? And then they're doing the changes dynamically. So right in the tool, in the workshop, people are seeing it change. Because these workshops can be fast and furious, sometimes, you know, they're just putting a note object on the diagram and capturing a bunch of notes, but definitely coming back to it after the fact. And then they'll, you know, give it a week or 10 days, set up another session, say, okay, here's the information we captured from the last workshop. And, you know, as we progress this forward, and then what they do is, and they've mapped out, so PPI has mapped out their own business process. So, you know, they have their own business process mapping of what they do, right? Prior to mapping, developing of it, and then closing the activities. So when they're going through this iterative cycle, you know, that's one thing, right? But to close it out, they require, you know, formal approval via email or endorsement from the subject matter experts and the line of business via email. And that's when we put it through the governance process. So once we receive that, then it starts to go through governance.
Sometimes
so users can't see it until it has been approved, though. So they
in the base, yes. But the subject matter experts and users that are part of that line of business, the team is just sharing the URLs. But yeah, no, nothing is widely available on the PSPC network, you know, via, you know, anybody who has a PSPC email and can access the base. But we're slowly building our content up in the base, so we're getting there. So when we did BAP and those process, QuasiStat, like there's a bunch of them now that are up in the base. So, so this, like I say, I like the fact that Manot and the team have modeled their own process, right? So that's a great advertisement for them to say, you know, we're going to, you know, use the tool to model our own processes as well. But I'm just going to quickly go back here. So one thing you'll notice, and right now we're in the private workspace and we're just going to stay in here for a second and show you some of this, but there is a separate desktop that is for real property services. And so they'll have their own desktop. We also have defined some different roles. So they will have a role that's defined for the RPS business user. So they're not, this will be very much tailored to the business people. So one of the things that within Real Property Services and PSPC, there was a bunch of work being done that I believe it was Gartner was working on the capability model. And there is a capability model that DSB had captured in the tool. And so this idea of this process group diagram really links to the, talks to the capabilities, but it allows us to hang our work off of the process area that in turn, relates back up to a capability. So this is an important sort of launching page in one way. There's a lot of different ways we can get at the content. This is one. So I can drill down into, say, revenue management, for example, and I can go and look at the budget allocation process from here. So I can just do my overall BAP, see the BAP process and what it entails from here. And budget allocation is a quite lengthy and time-consuming process with a lot of steps. So you'll see that in this particular map, there is a lot of sub-processes. So these activities are drilling down to other subsequent diagrams. So when they're, sending out the call letters to the regions and they're, conducting those official call letter preparation and all of these things are drill downs underneath, right? So none of this is, any different than any of the other business process diagrams, but just again, subsequent level of detail. So instead of trying to show everything in one diagram, the team has really done well in using this idea of the, drilling down the sub-processes. The other thing is you'll notice they're using BPMN as a notation. And so they are so they're using a business process diagram template and they're not using workflow, but they are really liking this notation and what it's communicating to the users and the team. So, and that was per, a Treasury Board had recommended at one time to use the simplified BPMN. So that was something that we carried on with. The other thing is you may notice that there's activities that you'll see there's these hollowed out squares around some of the activities. So this is indicating that there is a system that is supporting this activity and is used in this activity. And so the delivery of these tasks and the support of these tasks, it has a link to a system. So these systems were things that were loaded by DSB, and the OMIS numbers and everything are all, it's Treasury Board endorsed, and this is the OMIS numbers, and these are the systems that you'll be linking to. So we did a couple of things here. So one thing is in our the maps, we always make sure that we're linking to the systems that are, at one time we had our own systems, and now that's all been cleaned up. And we're basically pointing to the systems that are in the base configuration. So these items have been added in by DSB and went through their governance process and are endorsed. So when we link on an application like Sigma, which is a huge installation of SAP, you'll see that who the system owner is and a description of it, but you'll also see here's all the capability that this system is supporting, right? So we're seeing capability and links to the applications that are delivering capability. And then on the process side, we're delving deep into process, but also linking to capability. And right now, there's a little bit of a gap in that process to capability model, but DSB and us, we're addressing that. But this is an example of where we're, as users, we're leveraging the content from, another team and pointing to those objects that are in the base configuration. The other thing we did is we went and using that system information, we went and built, and Julie Marcil did this a while back, but she produced basically a national systems application architecture diagram for real property services. So these are all the applications that RP uses. Again, they're very specific to the real property business. But this is, again, pointing to, these are all base configuration objects. So these are owned by DSB. If we want changes to them, we can certainly revision and make changes and put them through governance, but not without notifying or, contacting DSB to talk about this, right? So the other thing is you're able to view this type of application architecture diagram by life cycle. And so this proved to be interesting to Bruno and some of his Menno's colleagues, because they're going out and doing a little bit of an application inventory, if you will. And so we said, well, we already have some of this. And basically the color coding is the life cycle of the application, right? So green is good in production, blue is frozen, red is being phased out. If they don't have a color, it's because they don't have a life cycle in them. Now we know these particular ones are being phased out. So we're just waiting to find out the proper mapping, and then we'll update our diagram here. But again, this is content that is contributed and maintained and governed by other teams. But we absolutely are presenting that here on a tile and linking to our dashboards. We also have an org chart in here. And again, the goal here is not to replicate the organization chart. There's lots of org charts at PSPC. At one time, we're linking to the intranet page for each of these lines of business, but getting feedback from the directors and DG meeting, they preferred if we could link to the main business process page, and then from there we could drill into, say, in BAT, for example, and go back and see that similar process I showed you already. So lots of ways to navigate into the content, and again, drilling down into some of the sub processes. And there also is links to GC docs documents and external documents and things like that are being captured as links as well in here. And then, like I say, when we go back to some of the other lines of business, we did have a sample here of, for AMWS. This is where GC co-working sort of resides, and a lot of work was done. These were absolutely brand new processes as a result of COVID, impacting many, many buildings and many, many businesses. But also now it's been evolving into, what do we need for hybrid work situations, right? So a lot of work is going on here, and each one of these has, some map underneath it as well. And so again, we have a pretty substantive amount of content going on as far as what's being captured and reviewed and approved and governed, right? So the team has done a lot of good work. Things to come, well, a glossary of terms we loaded in, and just have a QRV here for terminology for the business. So again, if people are unsure of, hey, what does that acronym mean? Oh, okay. We can go here. So that was just a quick load in of an Excel spreadsheet. And so anybody who's not familiar with the generic table interface, that's what we used for that. And then like I say, in real property, another project that's going on that's fairly process heavy is within the department. They are basically going to, they're adopting a standard project management methodology, if you will. And so Elizabeth and Dragos have been very busy working on updating these, creating these maps for Project Navigator. So again, you may hear that terminology coming up, but it's really just what are the steps involved in preparing for a major project. And again, projects within the department, these aren't necessarily, these are not IT projects. These could be large real estate retrofits, renovations, things like that, right? So there's a lot of different projects, quote, that can fall under this project umbrella, but lots of maps done here. And these ones are still in development, so they will be working their way through the client approval and governance and things like that. So, all right, I want to be cognizant of time because I know we have other things, but we are here for questions. We are here for just general discussion after. But really, the goal here was around knowledge transfer, corporate memory retention, because a lot of people are retiring and a lot of people are moving, roles and jobs. So this was a great way the organization felt to do that. All right, Cecile, I'll turn it back to you.
This is great. I was going to say leave it up. It looks so good.
Yay, team.
So yay, team. In terms of retaining, I mean, you've got processes now in one place. People know where to go to find the information they need to find to do their jobs, which is just amazing. I just love that desktop with the missing the information missing from
it's
the peer pressure.
It's very effective.
The peer pressure must be just enormous. That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyways, we're here for questions if people have questions, but just to stay on track, where you could ping us after or during the Q&A period.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, if there are any questions, please do feel free just to, take yourself off mute or pop a question in the chat, and we can always go back and ask. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
So you've just recently got more funding to continue this?
We haven't had the funding yet for next fiscal year, but this year, we have enough. We have enough funding to go a very long way.
And we have a submission in, so we'll see.
Yes, for sure.
But it must be really it must be gratifying. I mean, you guys have been working at this for a little while, but you've made a lot of progress in a relatively short period of time. There's a lot of work that's been done, and you've got quite a lot to show for it, which is great.
Yes, yes, for sure.
No, that's
and we
really
didn't
good.
drill down in all the lines of business that does, have stuff fleshed out. But like I say, like Manoa pointed to, there's about, over 170 maps across basically, 6 lines of business, and there's 11 lines of business. So it's plus supporting lines of business, right? So there could be lots more to come as well. But it's really, I think the point of it is, we wanted to share with everyone is that, not every use of QualiWare and, the adoption of QualiWare is always related to IT, related to driving out systems development or adopting EA. This was really about corporate knowledge retention, right? And that was the goal, to have things in a central place, have a common look and feel, and get the stuff out of people's head and into a tool. I see Louise with her hand up.
And I see Louise with her hand up. Louise, did you have a question?
Yeah, that was a great presentation. I'm so excited to see you doing that in QualiWare. Reminds me of the old Volvo Aero demo, if you ever saw that, where they put, that's what they did, right? They put all their processes in and they used it for onboarding and also for quality assurance and employee suggestions. Question, when you were working with the SMEs, did you use QualiWare to interact with them?
Mm-hmm. The team was mapping dynamically, right? Like they had a first draft up that they would put up. And then as they were walking through the content, they would be updating it dynamically right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that actual real-time visual working, how did your SMEs respond to that?
They love they love doing it live in the meeting. Sometimes we can have like 10 meetings with them until we get the approval. And usually what we do is the consultant does the map. We send the map we save it in a PDF. So whatever we see in QualiWare, they see it in the PDF. So they can put their comments before we do our meetings. Usually it's a bi-weekly meetings, because we don't want to wait too long, because sometimes you lose the tempo when you wait too long. So we like to do it weekly or bi-weekly with our clients. And when we do the change, it's live. We have QualiWare up in the meeting, and we do the changes live.
That's great.
Okay. So, yay to Dragos and Elizabeth.
For sure.
Handling that, because that can be fast and furious, in a workshop environment where people are all talking at once, and there's a lot of activity going on. But what we do is we plan out that it's like, if you're going to be the modeler, then I'll be the scribe, and we'll make sure that we all have our ears and eyes going and taking notes. But it can always, when you're the person with the mouse and the keyboard, and people are like, no, move the line over there, or no, type this there. You know how that can go. So anyways, kudos to them for getting it done.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, because it sounds like by engaging people actively like this, people have much greater sense of ownership of their process maps. Absolutely. And did you find that there was less revisions? You know how sometimes when you do stuff on paper and then you send it out, and then you have a meeting and then you send it out again, and then you get more revisions. And did you find that doing it live, you actually had less of that?
Yeah. It's easier because you talk it through. So, as opposed to when you do it on a paper, it's not the same as when you do it live, and it's like you're doing the process live, but on a map. So it's much easier and much faster.
Yeah, so the cycle of meetings probably would have been much longer, so the 10 meetings, so some people might go 10 meetings, like, really? Well, that could have been like months and months and months of back and forth through reports and emails and changes, blah, 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 right? So I think, to your point, Louise, you do reduce that timeline of getting to the end result, which is approval by the SME, and then getting it governed and up to the base. So, yeah.
And I'm curious also, because you said, you're helping people design the processes or really capture their knowledge. Did you find that when you were talking to a SME and they sort of saw their first thing mapped out, that it would spark them to identify gaps that they really hadn't made note of, or, told you about, or even thought about? Did you find that?
Hence the rework. Oh yeah. There's this whole other stream. So, So, no, it's been a good experience for sure. In that way, also.
Until we decided to map our process, we didn't understand. Well, we didn't understand the client. Like, we understood much more when we mapped our process, and we could relate to their challenge. So yeah.
I think Elizabeth said it best when she said, I should be more patient in the timing with the client. Because it's when we do our own work and we go, what do you mean you're giving me a day to turn that around? That's not enough. Right? So some of those things. So doing your own process will help. Exactly. I see David Gray. Hello. David has his hand up too.
Oh, I just had a quick question. You mapped the processes to activities, which is great. I was wondering if you took it a step further and went to procedure level within each activity.
No, we had not. So
okay, that's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. We'll go off camera.
Brenda, just to add to David's question, what we can do though is, if they have the procedures in a GC Docs link, we can link we can link the procedures and people, when they do the work, they will see the Word document or the Excel document, whatever. So that's one thing we can do.
That's one of the critical pieces for capturing corporate knowledge, especially as
Oh,
people
yeah, no,
want
I'm
that.
sorry, David, I'm sorry if I misunderstood your question. So from a procedural perspective of outside of the graphic of go through the following steps and here's who's involved, we do have external document links to documentation and supporting material. Yeah.
Right, because that's important for onboarding. Because so when you give the newbie one of the new processes
for
that
sure.
have been mapped, okay, that's a great activity. Now, how do I do that activity? It's that detailed procedural work that needs to be followed. Okay, thanks.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. This was great. And the timing is perfect because I am going to switch gears and I'm going to try and share my screen. I'm clicking on 12 different things. And our next presenter is Louise Harris, who's right here. And Louise is going to give us a little bit of a preview of a book that she is writing or has written.
I am in the middle of writing it. Yes.
Okay. So do you want me just to go straight to this, or
no? I'll have some other
end?
things first. We'll end with that one. Yes.
Perfect.
So
okay. So I'm going to hand things over to Louise.
Thank you, Cecile. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you. Some of you know me. Some of you don't. I have been around in and out of CloseReach and QualiWare since, QualiWare since 2010. So a while. My background is enterprise architecture, complex system design, system integration, especially in healthcare. And then I moved more into how do we actually design not just our technical systems, but our whole organizational systems to integrate process, culture, technology, etc. And of course, with that comes a whole lot of change. And really one of the things, I did a lot of work with eHealth, and one of the things that I found, and I'm sure that all of you can relate to this, is that smart people can pretty much always figure out how to get the technology to work. How to get the people to change, that's a whole different ballgame. And you can't just code people. So I've spent a lot of my time in that area. I took some time out to do a PhD to think about, one of the biggest challenges that we have with change, and this is why I just love this demo that I've seen so much, is when we actually design, how we're going to change the way we work. So often we do it using flip charts and documents and maybe some kind of diagrams, but we don't apply the same. And if we're lucky, we can use BPMN, which is really great. And then when you start talking about beyond procedures, behaviors, how do we have to some behaviors that we have to change, relationships that need to change? How do we map all of that? And so that's what I did my PhD in, was how can we create some very effective visual models based on all the science of cognition. So what is it that makes a model or a diagram really easy to read versus difficult to read? What is it that makes it way more intuitive than less intuitive? There's this there's a whole framework out there called the physics of notations, which has gone a lot into this, and actually BPMN kind of rates near the top of that as one of the best notations that there is. So I put a through my PhD within healthcare, we looked at this. How could we create some notation to help us really describe what's the value of this change for everybody and help people go through that process of understanding, figuring out what is the value for the organization, for the customers or the patients or the clients, for this team or that team, and for me personally. That being the very big first part of change, of figuring that out. And so one of the things that I have discovered is this whole thing about how visuals really helps people identify gaps in written documentation, become much more succinct in what they're trying to say. And we also found that using a diagram to as kind of the center of attention as we tried to work things out actually really helped resolve conflict as well, which was very, very interesting. So as I was thinking about, how I wrote a PhD thesis on all of this, and, I'm sure no one will ever read my PhD thesis other than the people who had to in order to decide whether or not I got a PhD. How do I package this into something that is actually really usable for people and impactful? And I'd been thinking about it for a while, and then ChatGPT hit us last year, and AI has just exploded. And the amount of change that we are all experiencing and how it's impacting so many different parts of our lives just exploded. So I decided that maybe the best thing for me to do was to write a book. And I'm not a writer. I like drawing diagrams. I am not a writer. But what I am doing with this book is having there's two parts to it, or two threads running through it. One is a conversation between these two middle managers. They're the ones that seem to get squeezed the most in change: middle managers, subject matter experts, people who are trying to help facilitate change, like all of you. Conversation between them as they try to navigate integrating AI into their organization, generative AI as well as pattern recognition AI. And then layering on top of that, and here's some tools and methods that they, through their story, learn how to use and how they use it. But the other thing that's really important to my background is that in the 90s particularly, I was very involved in the open source movement, especially with Java code and that. And so I'm trying to apply that same approach to my book, because I wanted to inspire hope for all those people that feel like change is just becoming too much, or all those people who feel like change just never really works in our organization. It's so painful. And, yes, we end up changing, but the process is so painful. And lots of people burn out from it, et cetera, that there actually is a different, better way to do it that doesn't have to be so stressful and so painful. And so I'm hoping to get a lot more people's perspectives as I write the book and as my characters go through their journey. And I don't have the whole story written out yet, but as they go through their journey, I'm hoping to get responses from people as they read each part of their journey. How would you feel in this situation? Or do you think is there a critical problem that's really common to a lot of people that I have missed and is not in this story, that we really should put in the story to make it more impactful to people? And so I have the first couple of chapters written, and just this last week posted. And so I'm going to share it with you a little later about I'd really appreciate anybody who would like to get involved with that, to share some of their ideas. It's a pretty easy way to do it so far. But before I talk to you a little bit about that, I'm going to try something completely new here. So let's talk about generative AI. I'm very interested to know, everybody here, how much are you working with generative AI? So theoretically, you should be able to point your phone at that QR code and it will take you right to this poll. Or you can go to menti.com and then enter this code up at the top.
See if this works.
Yeah, the QR code works for sure. Yeah.
Perfect.
Why did it not work for me? I want to. Okay.
I see it. There's a few people using it as a professional development coach. Cool. I know there's probably some other uses as well, but
Okay.
yeah, this is really good. So this kind of shows how many people, I think this, I don't know what this number is in down here, but this shows how many people are
Probably the
seeing.
average.
Is the average? Okay, thanks. Yeah. So quite a lot of people using it to code. A few, and a few people using it as a coach. Yeah. I'm sure if we were to do this in another year, there'll be like another 5 very common uses that everybody is using generative AI for. It is going to incredibly, and I'm sure we all know this, change the way that we work. All right, so let me move on to the next slide. And, you know, there's people that are afraid of it, people that are excited about it, people that are excited and don't want to care about any of the potential dangers, people that are just overwhelmed by the dangers. A lot of different reactions. ChatGPT has, I think, incredibly enhanced the pace of change. How do you feel about the pace of change right now?
Are we allowed to say
And
terrified?
You can say whatever you want. This is a word cloud and it's totally anonymous. And you can enter up to 3 feelings because, you know, sometimes we can be excited and terrified.
A little
right?
bit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a number of different reactions. Oh, scared and worried are
interesting,
getting bigger.
some are very bring it on, like I'm excited
Yeah.
about it, right? And
Yeah.
people are excited and optimistic, and then other people are like, I don't know, this is, and I bet you if we looked at the demographics of those comments, right, we would see that perhaps someone
Oh,
my
yeah.
age and my gen is less excited about the possibilities than, say, you know, we have a lot of people in our company who are young and they're all like, yes, this is awesome, right? So it's, you know, it'd be interesting to see it.
On the other hand, I love the meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then people are like, meh.
Yeah. Is this just going to be another fad?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Potentially, but I think not. I've used it, is saving me a ton of time. It is saving coders a ton of time. I'm using it to do a number of management consulting type things that I don't particularly enjoy. And so I can get ChatGPT to do about 70% of the work, and then I just finalize it, and it costs my clients less, and I spend less time doing stuff I don't like. I'm also using it as a coach. So like I said before, I am not a writer, never have, and I find writing really hard work. But with ChatGPT, the more you actually converse with it, I can get it to try out different things for me, try out this style or that style. You know, I started off sort of telling the story of these 2 managers, and it was kind of boring. And to try and make it, I thought it was boring anyways, even after I wrote it. And to make it more interesting seemed to me it would be a bit too dramatic. And so
Mhm.
I was thinking about how could I make the story really interesting without it being cheesy or overly dramatic, or, because it's about change in an organization. It's not like, some kind of, I don't know, something more exciting, climbing Mount Everest or whatever. And so then I thought, well, what if I made it a conversation between two people? Then they could really talk about what they were thinking or feeling or worried, and they could, actually work through it. They could actually demonstrate working through trying to figure out what to do. And so I asked ChatGPT, I gave it the story, and I said, just change it into a conversation, just so I could see what it would look like. If I had tried to change it into a conversation, it probably would have took me days. And it did, in 30 seconds, there I had my whole story as a conversation. And obviously I couldn't use it exactly the way it was, but it gave me a sense of how it might be. So 28 people. So a big worried. And I think, that is perfectly, I think if anybody is not at all worried, that's a little bit naive, because this is going to be a huge change. And how is everybody going to deal with this change? Yeah. Scared, optimistic. So worried and optimistic are both big. And I would say that for myself, I am probably both of those. And I think maybe there are quite a few people who are. And this is one of the big things about going through change, mobilizing change, is to actually realize the conflicting perspectives within yourself as well. All right, one last question. So that one was about yourself. Now this one, and we're going to try out Mentimeters. This one is about, it's just free text, where you work. So what are the biggest hindrances to change success? So, change happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen, things fail, but generally it happens, not always successful. So what are the biggest hindrances to change success where you work? Okay, so somebody wrote management. And you be a little more specific. What is it about management? Small team size, yeah, archaic processes, risk aversion, overpromise and underdeliver, yeah, lack of sharing new ideas and findings, that's a big one. People politics, understanding, lack of dedication, lack of common understanding on what and why, dinosaurs, resource changes, yeah, resource changes during the change. Slow adaptation or no willingness, poorly defined definition of success. Any others? Management change their minds way too often. Focus on change management and people management. People stubbornly adhering to certain traditional ways because they're afraid of the change. Yeah, all the comments are being felt by management too, and they don't know what to do either. And that is, I think, very true. Willingness to change, management's impatience to realize change. Management's understanding of the change and the pace of change. It's running at 100 miles per hour. I thought that was actually a really good comment that you made, Brenda, about when you actually did the process mapping on your own processes, then you realize that, 1 day turnaround was too fast. It's really hard to put yourself in other people's shoes if, your work doesn't involve that, if you haven't experienced that process. Okay. So we have about 16 responses here. So Mentimeter has talent weight, wrong resources assigned to the wrong tasks. Yeah, that's a really big one. You know, one of the other ones, maybe I should have participated in this. One of the other ones I found also is that just not involving people enough. Not harnessing, leveraging the collective intelligence of everyone out there, which is a big challenge right now, because things like how do we adopt artificial intelligence? There is no CEO that knows how to do that. There's no VP that knows how to do that. There are no senior directors that know how to do that. So it is not, absolutely, it's not a change that can just come from the top. The top needs to set the direction. There needs to be, as somebody mentioned further up here, why are we doing this? Some common goals. I saw that somewhere. What does success look like? Why are we doing this? What are the goals? Communications, exactly. We don't use visual diagrams enough for communications, and that is the big part that I'm focusing on. So I'm going to try. Mentimeter actually has this AI thing that we're going to try. And it's going to sort your responses and come up with some kind of theme analysis. Interesting. Resistance to change. So 7, slow adoption. So communications, overpromise and underdeliver is a communication challenge. Very interesting. 5 responses for management. Dinosaurs focusing people, all the comments are felt by management too. Yeah. This is kind of an, oops. How do I get back? Oh, there we go. Well, that takes me to the next one. How do I actually get back?
Up in the left-hand corner, there's a little arrow beside what are the bigger hinder. Yeah, there you go.
And while you're doing that,
There.
Louise, I hate to do this,
Yeah.
but I have to do a little time check.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm having too much
Sorry.
fun here.
I know.
Okay. I'm going to get out of this and stop sharing my screen.
Sorry, I was having
Stop
fun
sharing.
too.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for participating in those questions, because that actually will help me as I now have some more emotions for my 2 main characters, Mike and Rasheen. So thank you very much. So Cecile, if you can put that slide up.
I can do that. I will do that right now.
Thank you. So if anybody is interested in previewing my book, I am doing it chapter by chapter, and I am doing this as this is my rough draft, right? It's not polished. So I'm not looking for editing. You don't need to, this shouldn't be work. I'm not looking for editing or anything like this. But if anybody would like to preview my chapters, you can just scan that QR code, or you can type in this URL. I just thought that was a really long URL, so I created this QR code. Or you can send me an email, and I'll send you the link. So basically, I've tried to make it easy to read. You should be able to read it on your mobile, because I've split the chapter up into pages. And then there are some questions for you right in the page, so you don't have to go somewhere else to fill out a survey or anything like that. If you want to and basically I'm asking for your reactions and any suggestions that you have for improving it. So I would really love for anyone who would like to get involved in that. Closer to the time, I'll have a bit more of a pre-launch team or whatever. Everybody who participates, I will be acknowledging the insights I get from people. So I want to have that at the end. I'll give you a free Kindle version or something. And we'll have actually some Zoom sessions to talk through some of the challenges and things a bit more. I'll source that from the community as to what would be the most valuable Zoom session to talk through some of this. just as part of my saying thank you for being involved. And also I think it will help develop the story as well, even if we talk through it as a group. So thank you very much. That's me. I'm done.
Thank you,
Happy
Louise.
holidays, everybody.
Thank you, Louise. And I can also just attest, because I did pop on and start reading through it ahead of time. It's very easy to read. It's very easy to participate. I started reading it, and it's good. It's really good. And it doesn't take, you don't have to write pages and pages of feedback. It's click here, yes or no. It's that kind of feedback, which is great. It's minimal level of effort in the feedback side of things, but the book itself looks really interesting. So thanks very much, Louise.
Thank you for letting me share.
Right. Now we saved the best for last, as usual. I have to say that he's my boss.
The best for last. Yeah, that's right. There you go. Nice.
I have to say that he's my boss. So Kevin is going to spend a few minutes showing us some of the cloud symbology in QualiWare.
Sure.
So Kevin, I will hand that over to you.
I'll start with just a note about Louise. She helped contribute to our submission to First Rand Bank in South Africa. They were looking for business architecture, and we put together a proposal that included all of our QualiWare content, real-time, teaching you how to use a modern business architecture tool set, Roger Burlton's course, TOGAF. We have a new TOGAF trainer. We'll have courses up from her shortly on our website. And part of the submission was Louise's change management training that she has. Some new training and workshops associated with achieving your change practitioner's certification. So you can watch for that on our training pages shortly. So let me find the right thing that I'm looking for here. Okay, I think I've got it. Everybody should be able to see a screen that shows all kinds of symbology. So these are the primary categories that QualiWare allows you to model. And within each one of these categories, there is a symbol set. So QualiWare has taken all of the standard Azure, AWS, and Google symbology and put that into the tool set. It's it's buried in a models folder, so you'll have to talk to either us in support or to whoever is supporting the QualiWare install in your own environment to make those symbols available. But here, for example, AI, machine learning, analytics, app services, all of these are different categories of, I'll make it a little bit bigger, maybe. There you go. Different kinds of symbology that's available. And here, for example, is one of the first categories, for AI and machine learning. So all the different types of things that Microsoft offers in the Azure environment that you can model. And for AWS, their symbology is a little bit different. Analytics, application integration, blockchain, business apps, compute, things like that. So your cloud architects can be modeling those environments in the symbology that the various cloud vendors, they're building reference architecture examples, and they're using these same symbols. So for example, under what's this one? Analytics, which was the first square in the upper left here, the first category. These are all the different symbols within AWS for analytics. So data streams, Firehose, Cloud Search, Athena. I'm not a cloud architect, so I don't know a whole lot about what those things are, but some things, AWS data interchange and things like that. And from a Google perspective, again, a series of different kinds of categorizations and different kinds of symbology, and their breakdown of those as well. So cloud architects have a lot that they can be sharing and modeling within QualiWare. I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm actually
Hey,
going
Kevin, Dan actually has a question.
Yep.
Just as an, Dan, anybody who has questions, by the way, just feel free to just
Yeah, I
unmute
can't
yourself
see
and
the
jump in.
chat when I'm
No,
presenting.
I'll
full
keep an eye
screen
on
like
that.
so.
Dan's asking if the symbols mapped to own templates or do they map to existing templates? Not sure what you meant by own templates.
I'm going to actually go into QualiWare right now, and maybe we can share a little bit of that. Well, actually, let me find the right window.
Yeah, the question basically is,
Yep, there we go.
is it just, are they their own templates themselves with associated symbols? Or can we use those symbols to overlay on other templates? So is it its own meta model or not?
Yeah, it actually is its own template, and I'll actually show you. So for example, here, if you can see my screen here, I am on the wrong one. Let's start here.
Yeah. And
So-
Viral, I would encourage anybody who wants to discuss this, just unmute yourself. Kevin can't see the chat, so just jump in. Denise, I know you had a comment. Viral, you've got a comment, so please just, everybody just jump on in.
So I'll show you a couple of screens first, and that may answer some of the questions. But so I had shown you in a PowerPoint the different symbology. So here are the different high-level categories. And you can see I'm in, the web browser right now for QLM. If I go and drill down into one of those, here, for example, is the symbols or symbology associated with Azure Compute, and virtual machines are part of that. And here's an example of a model that actually models CloseReach's Azure environment. So we have a training virtual machine. We have a number of those. We have student machines that we use for CaseMaker and only turn them on at that time. Machines that we have specifically set up for CBP. Either jump boxes for people who are actually using the software right now so that they can jump into the actual QualiWare repository. So we're modeling out our own environment in QualiWare using that symbology. And I can actually go and click through and use the 3D layouts to see everything that's connected to that particular environment. So those things are specific templates. Here's an actual diagram that uses some of that symbology on a cloud architecture model. And if I open one of those objects, and let's go at it this way, maybe.
Keith, I have a question.
There we go.
It's Denise Gontin. I work at PSPC. How often are these symbols being updated? Because the vendors go through an awful lot of iterations, and I'm just wondering how quickly QualiWare is keeping up with those updates.
They're supposed to be looking at these things on a per release basis. So there's a chance that the vendors are, we see that in our own environment, right? Azure got rid of the old virtual desktop, the classic, and there's a new one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't.
So which release schedule? Is it QualiWare's release schedule, or is it the vendors?
Yeah, it's QualiWare's release schedule.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's an example of you know, a particular instance, and again, these you know, they've done this a lot, very similarly to what they did with BPMN, whereby working on certain attributes will determine what the visual looks like. So in BPMN, you know, to get certain kinds of messages, there's you've got to, you know, pull a drop down and select that type of message, and it'll put the little M in the box or whatever. And you know, they've done a similar thing here where you're selecting the cloud provider. You know, what category am I looking at? What instance? So you know, once you're obviously creating the first few of these things, you know, you can replicate and duplicate those models. In the architecture landscape or the cloud landscape model, there's also, you know, the grouping concept. Yeah, and I'm in read-only mode because this isn't my content. You know, and again, you know, what category and what group does it belong to? What does it relate to? What is it containing? You know, the different types of services, et cetera, et cetera. We're just in the process of exploring all of this because we're modeling our own cloud environment. But I'm aware that there are a lot of people that did not know that the Symbology was there and available within QualiWare itself. You should be able to break this down from some of this and associate these models, you know, through the various data linkages with other landscapes. So Dan, that may have answered some of your question. If you want to, you know, you can obviously take any kind of image and paste that over. Any other kind of template to get the visual you need, but with it provided here out of the box, I think that QualiWare will continue to enhance the data fields and attributes that are on a particular, you know, available on a particular symbol. But just even getting started, I had a conversation with an analyst at one of the departments who told us that there was extreme frustration within the cloud architecture group because they were being told to model everything in Archimate. And yet they were looking at reference architecture that Microsoft was providing, for example. So now I've got to take that and translate that into what Archimate symbols should I be using, rather than, you know, using what, you know, reusing the reference architectures that are being provided by vendors for how to provide certain kinds of services, et cetera. And again, you know, every department's approach to this is going to be different, every organization's approach, but at least the symbology is there. And so you can start to model and lay this stuff out. And you should be able to associate this with, as I say, when you actually open one of these objects. Let's just work on this one. Yes, open and read only. Again, I've got all of the typical governance and association fields here that, you know, where I can tie them to, and I've got, you know, a relates to field here to tie that to other things as well. And obviously then frames and framed by relationships, you know, in this kind of situation will reflect things that are contained within a grouping. So we're just learning this stuff. We're going to put the PowerPoint slides deck that I have. We have one for each of the cloud environments. So we've produced that Symbology, and we'll put that we'll make that available, and I think we can produce a QRX file of things that we've loaded into our repository, and we'll put that up on the file transfer utility. So both of those things to make available to people. I don't know if there's anything in the chat there, Cecile.
You're on mute, Cecile.
Yeah, I just realized that.
I'm like,
Thank you,
I
Carol.
hope I'm not talking to myself.
This whole time, there's been nobody there.
There we go.
There was a comment, VRL just commented, the new symbols can be used on cloud palette and cloud architecture diagram. Any questions, anybody? Comments, issues, concerns? No? Okay, thanks, Kevin.
There's not much on the COE about this, and that's why we thought we'd do a little exploring and modeling ourselves. And like I said, we'll make the QRX and the PowerPoint files available to everybody through the file transfer facility that we have.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, we have reached the wrap-up portion of the meeting where we just sort of leave things open for people to talk, make comments, and then just discuss amongst yourselves. Thank you very much, everybody, for your presentations today, Manon and Brenda and Louise and Kevin. Reminder about our CloseReach open house for Monday, December the 18th at noon. If you are interested in joining us, please feel free to reach out. You'll all have my contact information from this meeting. As well, there will be an email that goes out with some more information about it, and you can just RSVP on the meeting invitation. I don't have anything else. Maria, does it have any features that will help plan for development and support capabilities for cloud? Kevin, that's a you question.
That's a me question. Plan for development and support capabilities. Well, obviously, if you've got a cloud environment, you've got some kind of other infrastructures that it's tying to, or you've got any kind of support processes already in place, you can link it to, those types of things. How do you get support for those things, or linking it to perhaps things that are provided via Microsoft or any of the other cloud providers. You can draw those relationships just like you could. I mean, very similar to what you could with a traditional application landscape model.
And some of what Brenda showed us, what Brenda and Manon showed earlier illustrated some of that, right? Where you have the systems that are underpinning the different applications and services.
Yeah, so you could tie, those applications and services to these, the various cloud environments that are supporting them, just in the same way. And so you could then reverse look the other way and say, in this cloud environment, what are all the different processes, organizational groups, or related technologies and capabilities that are being delivered?
She then asked, you mean supplementary to Azure DevOps? So, hang on.
So actually, QualiWare can tie into Azure DevOps as well, but that's a topic for another day.
Maria, feel free to reach out to continue that conversation.
Will do. Right. Thank you, Cecile.
Okay, no problem. Kevin, Gail put a note in about the book.
Yes.
So everybody, you can have a look at that in the chat. And
actually, I'm gonna I'll share something actually just for a moment. Oh, did I get the right screen?
No.
No, I didn't. Okay, hang on here. stop sharing that. I will share. Oh, actually, I think I was in the right screen. Right here. There we go. Actually, Gail, this is something provided by Gail Peterson. It's for her book, Industry 4.0, and it's the table of contents. So there's a chapter, and Gail will present this stuff in January at our meeting. A chapter on technical debt, a chapter on manifesting your vision, connecting strategy and execution, visibility, a little bit on how complicated all this is, finding your way out of the jungle, and a chapter by Jacob Lund, embracing a living management system. What that means in terms of a business management system for an organization, being data-driven and reliability and governance, organizational design, an inside-out journey, perspective to the journey, and talking about stakeholders. Anyhow, this will be one of the topics for our January meeting, and as I said, as Cecile said, there's some information in the chat as well.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Which leads me to say this is our last regular user group meeting of 2023. The meeting in December is an open house. So our first user group meeting of 2024 will be the last Monday of January. Thanks very much, everybody, for your participation over the past year, and the good topics and the good conversations. And everybody have a happy holidays, safe holidays. And we'll see you all either in December or in the new year. Thanks very much, everyone.
Please feel free to drop
Thanks,
by the
Nicole.
office that day and say hi to everybody. And we might have a couple of little special technical things to share with some people.
Oh, now he's throwing out technical
Nah,
things to pull
Technical
people.
nuggets.
Well, that SharePoint meeting that we're having later this week.
Great. All right. Thanks very
Happy
much,
holidays,
everybody.
everyone.
Happy
Bye, everyone.
holidays.
Thanks all
Thanks
for joining.
everybody for taking part.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.